So it turns out this side cutter bit is actually really good. Um, you're able to get down in real nice and go just very gently in this motion carve away. If you go the other way, it tends to catch and skip and then makes a mess. But if you go really slowly, it works great that way. I also forgot why I had this lamp stand on the desk bench from last time. This is just an old adjustable height fan. The fan died, the motor died, so I just made it into a lamp stand. But this way, we're looking down. Again, the camera is not great, but looking down, you get really good lighting. I guess you can kind of see clear down into the bottom. And right from this direction, which is where my head is, there's no glare on the magnifying glass. So that actually works really well. So with the spiral cutter bit, I was able to get most of the pieces out along all the outside. These larger center sections are thicker, so I am gonna, I think, change to the little cutter bit, because then I can get down in and just cut the bottom off, and that'll work easier. Okay, all of the center pieces are out, so next I have to figure out what the best bit is to do the rest of the cleanup. My guess is it's going to be the spade type router bit, just because that worked really well last time, and the spiral cut bit was nice for moving lots of material, but it's kind of really long and hard to get in. Just for example, to say clean up a one spot, it works good to a lot of material, but not very much for minimal. And we're getting to the point here I don't want to mess it up, because it's very possible to do at any step, but the closer you get to the final, the easier mess ups are hard to hide, or is it the harder mess ups are to hide? One of those. Okay, well, it's about half done with the Dremel step. I'm really not sure how well the camera's picking that up. But you can see the back half is mostly all smoothed out. I just have the other half to do. And again, I'm just using a rounded router bit for the Dremel. That's what seems to work the best for that so far of all the different things I've tried. I've tried straight bits, I've tried other things. I even tried these. I got these. These were fancy bits I got at Woodcraft, which is an awesome store if you have one local. It has just a bunch of little burrs on the end. Problem is, this is, again, Chinese elm, and it works, but it tends to burn and make burn marks where it cuts. It also clogs pretty easy. That's the one nice thing, and why I tend to like this bit. It's rounded, so it lets me do the corners without having weird edges and things. It lets me round off the sides. Well, somewhat smooth. Much smoother than a square edge bit can do. If you just go really slow, you can just go down and smooth it off. But again, these look nice. I'm going to keep them and try them later for some other projects. But again, for this one, at least for this specific application, it tends to make it takes the material off some, but it tends to make burn marks. Whereas because this has larger areas for the chips to come out, even when it gets more dull, it doesn't make the burn marks as much. So that is the progress. I will keep working and finish it off. So now the basic Dremel work is done. And yep, didn't come out too bad. Considering all that's going to be covered up with the felt anyway, you don't have to make it real pretty, but it does make it nicer if it's, you know, somewhat straight sides, just because then it'll fit better. So I have to do some basic sanding and some other cleanup in, and then I can do the final sanding on the two pieces, and yeah, then we're moving towards the very slow finish work with oil, but first I got to get that all sanded and cleaned up such that it's smoother and the lines are a little bit straighter. I want to clean up some of these to get them a little bit easier, because again, the felt is easier, especially putting it on. I'm going to try and do the same as last time, putting felt on a plastic insert to make replacing the felt later easier. The plastic insert works better if there is, somewhat straight or fairly nice regular curves. So, Dremel work is done. One thing that needs done before we do completely the finishing, meaning we do the sanding, which I have done, or at least a good first pass on it. But then what we have to do is we have to make sure to put the hardware in, because if we don't put the hardware in, we're going to get it all ready and then realize we have to cut it all up to redo that. So it makes more sense to put the hardware in. So in order to make this easier, since the first time was horrible, second time was better when I did it this way, and we'll try and do it the easy way. I just use the painter's tape stuff and mark out first with a pencil, draw around it and such, and draw where the holes are. Then use the painter's tape to make the nice outline. And then eventually we'll also want to drill holes and things. The reason that's gouged out is this thing comes with a nice, of course it's off to the side, this thing comes with a nice metal screw versus the brass hardware. And so I drilled a hole for the pilot hole, no problem. Screwed it down in to get the threads set, so then the brass screw goes in real easy. Tried to back it back out, and the head popped off. That made it a challenge, so I had to dig out around it. Luckily, this is supposed to get covered up and routed out anyway, so I had to dig out around it, use vice grips to get that and get that back out. So, but in any case, luckily, because it's going to get all covered up, it shouldn't be a problem. But what I'm going to end up using next is the Dremel with the router attachment, and then you just go in and route all around, hopefully keeping it fairly at the correct depth. It should be at the correct depth for the thickness of the brass, and try not to get it too big so it wobbles and looks horrible. And then once you have this piece in, there are actually two sides, which again in this case I hack apart and just use the holes with a brass rod. But before you do that part, there's a side that comes with a pin, and then there's a side that's normally open. So you put this one down, countersink it, put this one down in, take a pencil, put pencil lead all over the little spot here for the pin. Carefully line up the lid, press down, rotate slightly. The pencil mark gets transferred to the lid. Then you go from there and take this piece, line it up with that hole, and or drill a hole with and put a brass rod in to make it easier. That's also maybe what I do. And then put this on, draw it around, and do the same routing bit on the lid. So next